G'day guys, welcome back to Roo Hammer and our exclusive YouTube only content. Before we continue, just make sure to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button as we're going to be releasing a lot more YouTube content moving forward. If you guys would like to partner with us and support us in what we do, then you can become a Patreon subscriber. And for the very low amount of $3 a month, you can support us. The link is on the screen there and it will be in our bio as well. Also, alternatively, you can head to our Redbubble store and get yourself one of our unique T-shirts celebrating Warriors heroes of past and present. So you can go on there. It's not only a great way to cop some new threads, but you'll also be supporting the channel. So, yeah, thanks in advance to all you guys who have already, and go and check it out.
Absolutely.
Well, it's something we've been wanting to do in a long time, mate. So in addition to both of us being massive rugby league fans, we're also both like movie fanatics, like absolute movie nuts, especially if the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, if you're not aware. Obviously, the franchise that started back in 2008 with the release of the first Iron Man movie, which seems like an eternity ago now. And, mate, it's still going today. And it's brought some of the most iconic Marvel comic book characters to life, including the likes of, obviously, Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, the Hulk, and so many more that I think they've introduced a lot of people to. Me personally, my association with Marvel Comics started when I was a young fella. After I'd go get a haircut, my dad would always take me to the newsagents and let me choose a comic book. And I had so I ended up with a lot of Spider-Man comics in my collection, but also loved Captain America and the Fantastic Four. They were probably my favorite comic book characters. But it used to be a condition. It's like, okay, you get a haircut, you can go get a comic book. I had no idea that the comics actually told like one great big story, and I would just read them over and over again, not realizing that the story actually continued. But anyway, what's your earliest memories of Marvel, mate? And what are some of your favorite MCU films?
Similar to you, mate. I can remember when my brother was at school and I was just a toddler, Mum would take me down the road. We'd go, you're going to love this one, mate. We'd get a vanilla slice or a custard tart from the bakery. Yeah.
Now we're talking.
Comic books back then were like 2 cents or 5 cents at the newsagent, and I'd be able to get a comic book. And like you, I was a massive Spider-Man fan. I was a big Thor fan, and I was a Hulk fan. But as you said, it's interesting. Like I got the comics way back then for the pictures because I couldn't read, and then as I got older and I was able to read them, similar thing. I didn't realise that they were progressing. There was a story progressing. You just get, what the newest Spider-Man, and it's only now as an adult that I wish I had have held on to those comics. I don't know what happened to them. Huge MCU fan. Some of my standout MCU films, obviously the first Iron Man when it came out with Robert Downey Jr. That was a massive movie.
Groundbreaking.
Groundbreaking. It kicked off the whole MCU franchise, basically. I love that. I love the first Thor movie. And then obviously the Avengers movies, when they bought the Avengers, the first Avengers movie, Age of Ultron, Endgame. They were great, really good movies. And the latest one that I really enjoyed was Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Isn't it? Yeah, different.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. How about yourself, mate? What movies for you?
Oh, look, just before I start with the movies, like we're talking about the continuous story. Well, that's one of the things I like most about the MCU is that even though they're all sort of individual stories in and of themselves, they are all like one little part in the overall story. So you look at the Infinity Saga, which starts with Iron Man, it ends with basically Endgame, and every single movie in those like 11 years tells one little part of the story, and you got those post-credit scenes that kind of linked a lot of those movies together. For me, like my absolute standouts from the MCU, Avengers Infinity War was just unreal, and that ending just crushed me.
Yes,
I think as it did with everyone else, I just seeing everyone get dusted, and it's like far out, and it just made you like so hungry to find out what actually happened. So, Avengers Endgame came after that, and that was I remember just coming out of that going, that is a genuine 10 out of 10 movie.
I can remember when Endgame came out as a pirate copy. I had a like a Cody box, and I could stream movies from America with like Japanese subtitles on the bottom and some crazy writing. And because of what happened in Infinity War, when Endgame came, I had to watch Endgame as soon as I was able to, just to find out what happened. Because as you said, it was emotional. It was emotional, the end of Infinity War with the dustings.
Oh, yeah, wasn't it? I was just like, but hang on, no, they can't die. These are like superheroes.
Yeah.
Some of the other standouts for me, Thor Ragnarok. I love the sort of comedy element of it.
Yeah.
I just loved the like it just added so much humor, and it just really added an extra element to the MCU, I thought. And of course, the end of that movie links directly into Infinity War.
Yes,
that shows them leaving Asgard before it gets destroyed. Ant-Man and the Wasp. I was a big fan of that one. Again, it's the humor element. It was almost made like a kids' movie, but again, it has an important place in the MCU, setting up the quantum realm. And there's another Ant-Man movie coming out very soon that's going to be having a bit to do with Kang the Conqueror as well, which will tell more of that, how he becomes the main villain. Spider-Man No Way Home, of course, last year. How good was that? It invoked like similar response in me to watching Endgame when you're seeing all the Spider-Men together again. Captain America Civil War, I love that one. But I'm actually a really big fan of the Dark Vigilante series that originally were on Netflix, but have moved over to Marvel now, and that's Daredevil and the Punisher. They were really dark, and gritty, and violent, but I was like those characters because they're a little bit different. The whole vigilante thing kind of quite appealed to me. But speaking of Endgame, let's talk a little bit about Endgame now. And I've got a bit of a visual presentation here that we will have a look at. And this is what ties into what we're going to talk about tonight. And you're probably wondering, how on earth are you segueing from Marvel into anything Roo Hammer related? Well, I'm going to get to that. So back in 2019, there was one, as I mentioned, one MCU film like no other, and that was Avengers Endgame. As we also talked about in the previous installment, Avengers Infinity War, the heroes had seemingly lost to Thanos, who had gained all 6 of the Infinity Stones and apparently had done what he set out to do, and that was to wipe out half of existence like that. He said he was going to do it, and he ended up doing it. As we said before, how about those emotional scenes, like the Avengers getting dusted one by one? How do you remember that? I remember just Spider-Man, when Spider-Man's like, I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark.
Spider-Man was probably the hardest one because Tom Holland just looks so young in that movie.
Yeah, exactly.
And you kind of, I kind of likened it to, if that was one of my kids, just the innocent look on his face. But yeah, it was kind of, because I don't read into spoilers or anything like that when movies come out, so it kind of caught me off guard when that happened. I didn't know that was the way the turn that the movie was going to take. So you lose half your superheroes in a flash like that. Very hard to comprehend at the time. Very emotional. It was very emotional.
Yeah, it certainly was, and you just remember the anticipation of what was going to happen in Endgame. And like the day was, for me, it was April 24, and me and my heavily pregnant wife, Cleo, raced out to the cinemas, and we joined the queue of a screening of Endgame that night. And I just remember, again, the excitement, because you had no idea how the Avengers could reverse this catastrophic event.
Yes.
I have to say, the movie itself was an emotional roller coaster. I've never been more glued to a film that ran over 3 hours. And it all came down to that final battle between what was the 2014 version of Thanos, and if you've seen the movie, you'll understand why it was a 2014 version of him, against you know, Captain America just standing there alone, seemingly defeated. And then we got this scene, and you could probably, it's probably not out of turn to say this is probably one of the greatest scenes in film history.
Absolutely.
I remember when it happened, you just saw that spark behind Captain America, and you hear this sort of this mumbling audio. It turns out to be Falcon, Sam Wilson, and then that just when that portal opens, and then you see three figures walk out, and of course it's the King of Wakanda, Black Panther, and he just gives him that nod, and then you know we're on here, you know something's happening here. The cinema just went nuts when this whole scene happened, and obviously Black Panther, and all of a sudden all the dusted Avengers started appearing from whatever realm they had disappeared from. So there was a lot of them had disappeared from Wakanda, so the Wakanda portal opens up, and all those characters come out, and there was one on the planet where they were fighting Thanos. Mate, how do you remember that scene? What was your reaction?
Like I said, I the first time I watched it, as I said, I watched it on a pirated copy with a lot of Japanese subtitles. So when I went to the cinema and watched it, I kind of knew what to expect, but it still gets you because you're in that crowd mentality. And then as each portal opens and each group of characters comes through, the cheering just gets louder and louder. And it was like being at a sporting event. It was...
it really was,
It was kind of amazing. And I've only ever had that kind of feeling at a movie cinema one other time, and that was in the recent Spider-Man movie when all the Spider-Mans came through. And each time, like when Peter Parker came through and when Andrew Garfield came through, there was cheering. I went to that with my kids, my adult kids, and my 25 and 23-year-old sons were up and cheering. They're massive Marvel fans. So yeah, it was a really, really good scene. How about yourself, mate? How do you remember it?
Oh, I just remember going, yes, they're all back. When Spider-Man jumps through, honestly, the cheer, as you said, the cheering in the cinema was just like a sporting event, because obviously he had such a, you know, his semen dusting scene was just so emotional. Like, as you said, he's too young to die. He's just a teenager from Queens, and he came through, and then you got like the Black Widow and the Wasp and all the characters. You got the characters from New Asgard come through as well that were introduced in Ragnarok, and then you just had this like kind of standoff. The Guardians of the Galaxy, Star-Lord and all those guys came through, and then you just had this bit, and this is everything had been building up to this moment. Everyone had just been waiting for Cap to say, "Avengers,
assemble." And
then the music just kicks in, and they're charging into battle, and Thor is just like, it's just this next level. Yeah, mate, it's unbelievable. As I said, like for me, the greatest scene in film history.
Yes.
Just the as we said, the emotions that it invokes. So let's get to it. So 1 year later, in 2020, we all found ourselves in COVID lockdown, and the NRL season went on hiatus after 2 rounds, as we all know. And during that time, a lot of media outlets were doing their list of their greatest 17s in club history. It just presumably in an effort just to pass the time until the season review. Remember, Fox Sports were doing that morning show, desperately trying to keep people watching Fox Sports. And at that time, I was out jogging a fair bit, and I'd listen to music when I jog, and cranking one of my playlists. And one of the days, I was thinking about what was my Warriors' greatest 17. And at that time, while I was running, that song, the song that is playing during that scene is from Alan Silvestri's magnificent score. It's a track called Portals from the Avengers Endgame soundtrack. I recommend you listen to it because, again, even just the music itself just brings back a lot of emotions for me. And that came on my playlist, and I was listening to it, and I'm thinking, what if we could assemble our greatest ever Warriors 17 or greatest ever Warriors squad with players from an exact period of time that they excelled in. What do you think about that?
Wait. So what you're suggesting here is some kind of time heist, just like in the Avengers. We'd also need Doctor Strange, of course, to open up all those portals in time. Mate, that's a great idea, especially since we've just recently gone through our greatest Warriors 17 of all time a couple of weeks ago when we had Brad and Richie on the show.
Yep.
Maybe we should have a look at our teams. You got mine up on screen now. Hammer's...
Fittingly, we've got Thor there representing Hammer's team.
Yep, absolutely. So basically, the idea that we had is when we did our Warriors Greatest 17 the other week, we didn't have a year next to the players, the year that we'd bring them back. So what we're talking about now is the best version of that player in our Warriors 17. So I'll go through my list, which is up on screen. So I've got Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. I've got the 2018 version of Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, which, as everyone knows, is a Dally M medal year. Roger's best year in the NRL. So that's the Roger Tuivasa-Sheck that I would have at fullback. Manu Vatuvei, I'd have the 2010 version of Manu Vatuvei. That was his 2010 was the year that he was Player of the Year for the Warriors. It was also the year he scored 20 tries that year. He was one short of Sean Kenny-Dow for the leading NRL try scorer. There was only 5 games that season that he didn't score a try in. He scored 3 trebles and 2 doubles. And it was the 5th year in a row where he'd scored more than 10 tries in a season. And as we all know, Manu's went on to be the only person to have scored more than 10 tries in 10 consecutive seasons, still holds that record in the NRL. So I chose Manu Vatuvei of 2010. Clinton Torpey, 2002. That season he played 26 games. He scored 18 tries. None more important than the try he scored against Cronulla in that preliminary final.
Yeah, what a try.
Yeah, and when we had him on the show, he spoke about that season so glowingly, and that was probably Clinton's best season in a Warriors jersey. Jerome Ropati. I've got Jerome Ropati from 2008. Now, 2005, 2006, Jerome played just as many games as he did in 2008. He played 22 and 23 games for the Warriors, but he switched from fullback and centre in 2005. In 2006, he played predominantly at 5'8". 2008, he played 22 games and they were all at centre, and that's where he really found a home. Jerome's style of play, the person that reminds me of Jerome's style of play now is Petahiku. Jerome was a kind of centre that always set up his outside men. So I've got Jerome Ropati from 2008.
Hence Manu getting so many tries.
Absolutely, yeah. Francis Melly, 2003. Obviously, you've got his iconic 5-try haul in a qualifying final against the Bulldogs, which is still goes down in Warriors history. And, of course, Brent Tate will tell you how damaging Francis Melly was for us. At 5'8", I've got James Maloney, and I've got the 2011 version of James Maloney. That was, obviously the year that we went on to qualify for the grand final. Unlikely grand final qualify, actually, but a lot of it was to do with James Maloney and the way he played, and he was outstanding for us in 2011. I've got Stacey Jones from 2002. You could have taken Stacey Jones from any year from 95 through to 2005. I chose 2002. I think it was the year that he won the Golden Boot, and it's also off the back of Stacey's gameplay, off the back of a forward pack that was moving forward and making a lot of metres. He was able to showcase exactly what he could do with a footy in hand, his class and his ability with the ball. And he did that behind, that really good forward pack that we had in 2002. Ruben Wiki, 2005, Ruben Wiki. He was our Player of the Year that year at the Warriors. It was his first year at the Warriors. Ruben was, iconic in that Warriors jersey. He was iconic in a Canberra Raiders jersey and a Kiwis jersey. But I chose Ruben Wiki. His best year at the Warriors, 2005. PJ Marsh at hooker, 2002 version of PJ Marsh. No more really needs to be said. It was his best year at the club. Steve Price. I've got 2006 version of Steve Price. You could have picked either 06 or 07. He was Player of the Year both years. I chose the 2006 year. I just thought that he brought a lot to the table that year in a team that was still struggling, looking to try and qualify for finals. Stephen Kearney, the 1996 version of Stephen Kearney, he was our Player of the Year that year. Had an outstanding year for the Warriors. The other second row, I've got Ali Lauatiti, the 2002 version of Ali Lauatiti, the Michael Jordan of rugby league. He was outstanding for us on an edge back then.
Yep.
Simon Mannering at lock. I've got the 2011 version of Mannering, and I've picked the 2011 version. He played 28 games that season, and he led the Warriors to the grand final. And that's he won Player of the Year five times. Hence the naming of the award now being the Simon Mannering Medal. So you could have picked any year from Mannering. I picked 2011. And then moving to the bench, Lance O'Hire. Again, another player that played outstanding every year that he played. But I picked the 2008 version of Lance O'Hire. Kevin Campion only played 2 seasons at the Warriors. But what 2 great seasons they were.
So fondly remembered.
Yeah. Absolutely. And to only play, 30-odd games for the club and be considered one of the greatest that the club ever had. And not because of what he did at the Dragons or the Broncos or anything. It's what he did at the Warriors. And 2002 was a great year for Campo. Michael Luck. I've got the 2011 version of Michael Luck. 2009 was his Player of the Year season. We've got 2009 and 11 written up there. But his experience in the 26 games he played in 2011 went a long way towards the Warriors qualifying for the grand final. So that's why I chose that year for Michael. And Tohu Harris as my 17, the 2020 version of Tohu. He did miss the back end of the season. No, he didn't. He played the full season, sorry. His experience assisted RTS in the toughest season the Warriors have ever endured in club history, and that's why I chose him. It was not only what we did on the field, but it was what he did off the field. And then as my 18th man, I've got Wairangi Korpu, 2004. He was our Player of the Year in 2004, which is outstanding for a guy that really had no set position in the team. He covered a lot of different positions. He was our Mr. Fix-It, Mr. Reliable, Mr. Effective, I think they used to call him.
If you guys had that nickname, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I chose Wairangi. And Coach Ivan Cleary, maybe I'd say Ivan Cleary, the 2009 coach Ivan Cleary. And the reason I'm saying that...
Interesting.
He led the club through a really, really tough time after the death of Sonny Fye. And his maturity and his leadership and his the way that he brought those players through, and then into 2010 and 2011, how we came out of the back of that was great. So that's my end game Warriors greatest ever 18.
I was just going to say, if you got Michael Luck from 2009 and 2011, Doctor Strange is going to have the 2 portals, and he'll come out from both years, and there'll be like a time imposter or something like that. You get the 2009 Michael Luck trying to tackle the 2011 Michael Luck.
Oh, that'd be a battle and a half, wouldn't it?
Yeah, sure would.
Let's have a look at your team, mate.
Let's have a look, mate. Let's have a look at Roo's squad. I'm represented by the Hulk, obviously one of my favourite Marvel characters. Much like you, I'm going to start off with RTS, Captain Marvelous from that 2018 season, one of the best seasons by a fullback in recent memory. He was outstanding for us, not just the way he played, but his leadership as well. So I've got him there at fullback. Again, Francis Melly. Those 5 tries that he scored against the Bulldogs that night is one of the greatest Warriors memories that I have. He was absolutely unstoppable. As my mate said to me that night, he's got spiders all over him. He was just power and pace, Francis Melly. And as you mentioned, his tackling, and he could put on a hit. I also went Clinton Torpey. I actually meant to put Clinton. I had him as 2002, but I'm thinking the 2003 version of Clinton Torpey, because that night again, the same game against the Bulldogs, he was untouchable. He was putting Melly away every time with those round the corner passes. 2003, he just continued on his sublime form from 2002. And I remember them saying, I remember even the Channel 9 commentator saying, this guy has to be close to the best centre in the world at the moment. And it was true. Jerome Ropati jumps out from the 2008 portal. His form that year, as you said, was fantastic at centre. And I just always remember his performance in the semi-final against Melbourne, where he basically started that try for Whitty. And it was his skills. And I remember them saying he was just so silky. So I got Jerome Ropati, much like you, Manu Vadavai from the 2010 season. So many tries, like 20-plus tries. And I just remember him being impossible to stop one-on-one close to the line that year. And he was just, as his nickname was, the Beast. James Maloney comes out from 2011, the 2011 portal. Like, what can you say about the guy? He's a born winner. And he came to the club at 2010, no expectations on him. No one even knew who he was. And he just took us to the finals from finishing almost the previous season. Just played with a lot of maturity and temperament. And as everyone says about him, he just knows how to win. 2011, like, he guided us to that grand final. Stacey Jones, 2002 portal. Actually, when I did this, I had him coming out on Ali Lauatiti's shoulder. Just like how Ant-Man is the giant version, and Stacey Jones comes out on his shoulder. But anyway, Stacey Jones, 2002, Golden Boot winner, and threaded the needle for that John Carlaw try. I remember in the commentary they said, when you need something done, you go to your best. Always remember that. Peter Sterling said that. Go to your best.
What about his solo effort in the grand final? Greatest solo effort try in a grand final.
Fantastic, and that's the smallest silver lining that we take away from the 2002 grand finals. At least we have something to look back and remember if we don't want to remember everything that happens after that.
Watch it to the 60th minute. Then
60th minute, that's it. Full time. Reuben Wiki from 2005, his first season with the club, he was super consistent. He was super competitive, and he brought exactly what we needed at the time, and that was some leadership and some grit. PJ Marsh, 2002, he was outstanding after being moved to hooker early in the season. He came to the club as 5'8" and got moved to hooker and made the position his own, played State of Origin that year. Pricey, I got the 2007 version of Price. I just remember his meters that year were off the chain. He won Captain of the Year as well at the Dally M's. And his leadership just fantastic for the club. Such a legend, super consistent, and he just absolute meter reader. In 2007, that's what I remember him, just carting the ball up, set after set. As I mentioned before, Big Ali comes through and the Ant-Man bursting out from all the rubble in the 2002 version of Ali Lauatiti. As you said it, mate, the Michael Jordan of rugby league, had all the skills, and look, obviously one of the biggest losses in club history that day in 2004 when they sent him packing. But, mate, he was like no other. Simon Mannering, I went with the 2008 versions. I've summoned Simon from 2008, and the reason for that is a slightly younger version. I think that was kind of the back end of his centre days. So I think around between 2006 and 2008, they started really pushing for him to play in the back row and lock. And so a slightly younger version, but still an absolute workhorse, tackling machine, and you know exactly what you're going to get from a Simon Mannering. I stuck with the 2011 Michael Luck as well. What can you say about him? I seem to be saying this word a lot, but it's consistency, and he did all those 1%ers. He was like the janitor, as they say, because he did all the dirty work I wanted to do. Michael Luck made all the tackles, and he was just absolute in defence. And let's not forget about his try assist to James Maloney in the game against Melbourne, the semi-preliminary final against Melbourne. So he did have a bit of offence in him. Moving to the bench, I've gone with Lance O'Hire, 2002. That's when he burst onto the scene. He was predominantly a half that year. But I just remember him being so dynamic, and he filled in a number of positions, and that's what he did throughout his whole tenure at the Warriors. Once again, I've just gone for a younger version of him. So the 2002, Doctor Strange is going to have to keep that 2002 portal open for a long time, because I think a lot of these heroes are going to be coming out of that. Kevin Campion, tough, gritty, and just he he just reintroduced standards back to the club. I just remember him always saying, these guys are so used to cutting corners here. And I think he just lifted the standards, and that's what everyone respects him for, and that's why he's still, associated with the club today, and he was an ambassador. Like, he's just so highly regarded. I've gone for someone a bit different in my number 16 jersey. The 2003, that night in 2003, I'm going to have to grab a lot of guys from that Bulldogs game. Dr. Strange's will come on, you guys are needed. Because Sione Faumuina is going to come from 2003 as well. 2003 version of him, he was just such a weapon on the edge. He had all the skills, passing game, holding the ball in one hand. He was clever, and that night, he was untouchable as well. He set up quite a few tries. He even had a bit of a kicking game as well. He did a bit of goal kicking for us. So he's a man who could do a bit of everything. I really liked him. He was so dynamic. Richard Villasanti, again from 2003. That was easily his best year with the Warriors in 2003. The back end of that season, with the flowing locks. He was the enforcer. He was the enforcer that we haven't had in such a long time. And people, when they say people used to fear playing against the Warriors, often they leave Villa's name out, but they mention a lot of the other guys from 2002. But in 03, he was fearsome. He could put on a hit as well. Remember the hit he put on Shane Webke against the Broncos that afternoon, and he was rewarded with a selection for the Kangaroos at the end of that 2003 season.
Yeah, that's right, he was.
Yep, and my 18th man, everyone knows I've got a soft spot for the Doc, Jason Deeth, 99 Player of the Year. I just loved him because he brought so much energy, and he always had such a positive attitude with everything that he did. I'm going to bring him back from 1999. That was his first season at the club, and that was his Player of the Year season. And again, Coach Ivan Cleary. What year? I'm going to go 2006 because that was his first year as a coach, and he started with -4.
Yes,
and he brought the team. He was able to motivate the team and bring them within a whisper of making the finals in 2006. And that was his platform that led into 2007, 2008, and then 2010 and 2011. It was the making of the man. And such a legendary figure in Warriors folklore. Is he like the Nick Fury of the Warriors?
No, he'd be... Nick Fury would be Mick Watson.
Okay, Mick Watson.
Yeah, Mick Watson,
the mastermind, assembling the side.
Yeah, Ivan Cleary would be. What's that guy's name? What's his name? The guy in Iron Man that he goes to Tony Stark's place, and he's the one that gets shot in the Avengers when they've got the
Agent Coulson.
Yeah, Coulson.
Yes,
yeah.
Coulson.
Yes.
I thought you were going to say Thunderbolt Ross.
No, no, Agent Coulson. Ivan Cleary. Or Agent Coulson would be Mick Watson, and Ivan would be Nick Fury. Pick one. One or the other.
Either or. That's fantastic analogy anyway. And so that's why we've called this Warriors X Avengers. Yep. How can you possibly tie the two together? But there you go. And all came from an idea that I had, and I thought, let's give it a shot.
You're an ideas man.
I try to be.
It was a lot of fun, and it was a little bit different. Don't forget, everyone. Comment below your favourite Warriors 17 and the eras that you would open a portal for them to return. Yep. We'd love to see. Some of the players that you guys have got in your 17 and what year you would bring them back from.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit of fun. Yeah, so join the conversation. Leave your comments below. Guys, thanks so much for watching. And please remember to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss any of our YouTube-only content. There's plenty more coming. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.